There is a moment, sometime around 8 o'clock on a summer evening, when your yard makes a decision without you. The feeders go still. The branch where the cardinal sat all afternoon is empty. The chickadee that visited 11 times today has not come back in over an hour. You were not watching when it happened. You never are. And that is exactly the point. Most people assume the night is a pause. A waiting room between the yard they saw at 6 and the yard they will see again at sunrise. But the night is not a pause. It is a completely different event, with different rules, different players, and behaviors so unexpected that most people who have been watching birds for decades have never once suspected they were happening. Tonight, after you fall asleep, the birds in your yard will enter states that have more in common with hibernating mammals than with the animals you watched at your feeder this morning. Some of them will do something to their own bodies that should not be physically possible for a warm-blooded animal their size. One species you have almost certainly never thought of as a night bird will be singing in your yard at 2 in the morning, not because something is wrong, but because something specific in your neighborhood is tricking its brain into thinking the sun has already risen. Welcome back to Backyard Bird Mind. What you are about to hear happens in your yard every single night, 12 months a year, in complete silence, completely out of sight. Stay until the end, because the last section covers what is directly above your house on certain nights in spring and fall, and the scale of it changes the way you read the night sky permanently. 1. What your birds actually do to their bodies when the temperature drops. The black-capped chickadee weighs 11 grams. That is 2 pennies. On a cold January night in the northern United States, that bird faces a thermal problem that should, by any reasonable biological calculation, be fatal. A warm-blooded animal that's small, exposed to temperatures below zero, should burn through its fat reserves in a matter of hours. By 3 a.m. it should be dead. It is not dead. And the reason it is not dead is one of the stranger physiological facts in your backyard. Every evening, as the light drops, the chickadee in your yard deliberately lowers its own body temperature. Not by 1 or 2 degrees. By up to 12 degrees Celsius below its normal daytime core temperature. Its heart rate falls. Its metabolism drops to the minimum threshold required to maintain cellular function. It enters a state called regulated hypothermia, not sleep, not unconsciousness, but a controlled biological suspension that burns a fraction of the energy of normal rest. This is not something that happens to the chickadee. It is something the chickadee does, a voluntary physiological shift it initiates every night and reverses every morning. The bird shivering at your feeder at 7 a.m. is the same bird that was running at half its normal temperature 6 hours ago, and it has done this every night of every winter of its life without once failing to wake up. The roost site is part of the calculation. Chickadees do not sleep in the open. They locate cavities, old woodpecker holes, gaps in bark, nest boxes left out through winter, and sleep inside them. The walls of the cavity trap the warmth of the bird's body and create a microclimate that can be several degrees warmer than the outside air. A chickadee in a nest box on a February night is not just hiding. It is engineering its survival environment with the resources your yard provides. If you have a nest box in your yard and you have never thought of it as life support equipment, you are now thinking about it correctly. 2. The bird that is wide awake at 2 a.m., and why your neighborhood is responsible. The American robin is not a night bird. Everyone knows this. The robin is the early riser, the first voice of the dawn chorus, the bird your grandfather quoted as the sign that morning had officially begun. The robin goes to sleep at dusk and wakes before sunrise. This is not a myth. Under natural conditions, it is completely accurate. But your neighborhood is not a natural condition. In suburbs and cities across the eastern United States, robins in well-lit yards have had their internal clocks comprehensively broken by artificial light. The hormonal cascade that triggers dawn singing, the surge of melatonin dropping as light increases, does not distinguish between the sun and a street lamp. A robin roosting near a porch light, a security floodlight, a lit window, experiences a chemical sunrise every time that light turns on. If your exterior lights run from dusk to midnight, the robin in your holly bush may have experienced sunrise 3 or 4 times before the real one arrives. The result is birdsong at 1 a.m. At 2 a.m. Fully developed territorial song, the same rich phrase and response pattern the robin uses at 5:30 in the morning, delivered in complete darkness in the middle of the night to a yard that has no other birds awake to hear it. If you have ever heard birdsong in the middle of the night and wondered if you were imagining it, you were not. And if the sound was coming from somewhere near a light source in your yard, you now know exactly what disrupted that bird's night, and why. 3. the hidden social contract that keeps your yard alive after dark. A sleeping bird is not switched off. This is one of the most underappreciated facts in backyard ornithology, and it changes what you are looking at when you look at a dark, still yard at midnight. Many birds practice what researchers call unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. One hemisphere of the brain enters a rest state while the other remains fully active. One eye stays open. The open eye is connected to the alert hemisphere. The closed eye is connected to the resting one. The bird sleeps and watches simultaneously, and the two hemispheres rotate the duty every few minutes so both get adequate rest. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology documented this clearly in mallard ducks sleeping at the edge of a group. The outermost birds held their outward-facing eye open, monitoring for predators, while birds in the center of the group slept with both eyes closed. The vigilance was distributed. The flock maintained collective awareness without any individual bird staying fully awake. In your yard, this distributed awareness creates something that functions like a surveillance network. Every roosting bird is a sensor. The great horned owl calling from the oak at 10 o'clock is being registered by the cardinal in your arborvitae. The snap of a branch as a raccoon moves through registers in the chickadee in the nest box. The alarm flush of a mourning dove in the back corner of your yard, the distinctive high whistling sound the wings make as the bird launches in darkness, is itself a signal. Other doves within earshot receive it and respond. Your yard at midnight is not empty and quiet. It is full, and it is listening. What looks like stillness from your window is a functioning detection system, operating in every direction at once, maintained by animals you cannot see. 4. The bluebird you know in summer is not the same bird in winter. Eastern bluebirds are territorial. The male you see patrolling your yard in breeding season, that intense electric blue bird defending his nest box with complete aggression against every other male that approaches, he does not share space. He does not tolerate proximity. The 10-foot radius around his nest box is his, and he enforces it visibly and constantly from April through August. Then winter comes, and that calculation is suspended entirely. On the coldest nights, bluebirds pack into cavities together. Not 2 or 3, researchers in the eastern United States have documented single nest boxes containing 12, 15 bluebirds on a single night. Birds that would not perch within 30 feet of each other in July are spending the night pressed together, sharing body heat, keeping each other alive by eliminating the boundary between them. The math is simple and brutal. A single bluebird in a cavity on a night at -10 loses heat from every exposed surface. 12 bluebirds in the same cavity share warmth from 11 other bodies and reduce the surface-to-volume ratio dramatically. The territorial rules are not suspended because the birds forget them. They are suspended because the birds calculate that survival outweighs sovereignty. Your nest box in December is not off-season storage. On the right night, it may be the difference between a bluebird alive in the morning and one that is not. The structures you maintain for breeding are the same structures that decide who survives the winter. That is worth knowing before you decide whether to leave them up. 5. What is crossing your roofline tonight, and the number that changes everything? This is the part that most people, even people who have been watching birds for 30 years, have never fully absorbed. Twice a year, the airspace above your house fills with birds. Not a few birds. Not a flock. On a peak migration night in late April or early May, and again in September and October, the number of individual birds crossing a single point in the eastern United States can reach into the millions, in a single night. These are not rare species traveling mysterious routes from unknown places. These are your birds. The wood thrush that spent last summer singing from the maple in your backyard left in October and has been in the forests of Honduras since then. Right now, on a warm night with a south wind in late April, it is flying north above your neighborhood, navigating by star patterns and the Earth's magnetic field, burning fat reserves it built over 4 months in Central America. It will be back at your feeder in 3 weeks. Tonight it is invisible, 300 feet above your roof. The ruby-throated hummingbird you will see at your feeder in May crossed the Gulf of Mexico last night. Not island-hopped. Crossed, 18 hours of continuous flight over open water, no rest, no landmarks, burning energy at a rate roughly equivalent to a person running consecutive marathons. It navigated by light frequencies beyond the human visible spectrum and arrived within miles of where it was hatched. BirdCast, the Cornell Lab's radar-based migration monitoring system, tracks this in real time. On a peak night, the radar image of the eastern United States shows what looks like a massive weather system moving north. Not precipitation, not clouds, but the biological mass of hundreds of millions of birds returning from their wintering grounds. The signal is large enough that meteorologists spent years learning to distinguish it from rain. This is happening above your house. On specific nights, in specific weather conditions, it has been happening above every house in North America for longer than houses have existed. The yard goes quiet at dusk. The feeders empty, the branches go still, the last light fades out of the sky, and the yard you spent the day watching disappears. But you know now that the quiet is not absence. The cardinal is in the center of your holly bush, the chickadee is in the cavity in the oak with its body temperature 12 degrees below normal, its metabolism running at minimum, every system calibrated to survive until the light returns. Somewhere near your porch light, a robin is about to sing because a lamp told its hypothalamus that morning came early. And above all of it, above your roof and your feeders and your carefully maintained nest boxes, on the right night, in the right season, there are millions of birds crossing a continent by instruments you do not possess, returning to a yard that has no idea they are coming. This is what your yard is, after you fall asleep. Every night. Tell me in the comments, have you ever heard a bird singing in your yard in the middle of the night? What time was it, and what did you think was happening? I read every one. I'll see you in the next one.